War is part of our human experience, but the way we fight it is changing. Technology is defining the future of warfare.
It's changing the way we think about making decisions in warfare, providing capabilities that were previously unreachable.
Lessons from the past inform the future. At every technological leap redraws the battle lines we once knew. Technology was once a spear. Today, it is a cyber attack.
The amount of interconnected technology has fundamentally transformed the operational environment.
Familiar domains grow increasingly complex, and the race to dominate the ultimate high ground has begun.
In the same way we think about sea power, we need to start thinking about a strategy for space.
As machines take the reins, the speed of warfare accelerates ever faster. Technology has always shaped war.
Evolution has always happened, in war and in society. It will continue to happen.
War has always shaped humanity. Problem solving, learning, decision-making, and consequence are inherent to the human experience. Yet modern war machines can mimic cognitive functions and remove the human element from the process. Masses of data inform algorithms, which in turn guide autonomous weapon systems to search or engage a target. As machines match and outpace human capability, the landscape of future warfare could be like nothing we've seen before. Will there still be a human element in future conflicts? Or are we destined for a future defined by artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence, or AI, is a branch of computer science dedicated to developing machines that mimic human cognition. Machines that learn and solve problems.
AI as it exists now is really just a deep learning, pattern matching set of algorithms that allow a computer to train itself on data from the environment and then replicate that.
We might think of artificial intelligence as computer chess.
I believe it's absolutely crucial to find out at what level machine can copy the decisions of the human being.
Robots on the factory floor, smartphones guiding navigation. Artificial intelligence systems are incorporated into our daily lives.
Artificial intelligence generally relates to systems that have been described as capable of imitating intelligent human behavior, acting appropriately and with foresight in the environment, and systems capable of applying human-like reasoning.
From the age of antiquity to the present, the concept of creating intelligent machines has fascinated humanity. We are living in the fourth industrial revolution, an era in which technology is advancing at an extraordinary rate, where the digital world is enmeshed with our physical and biological worlds, where science fiction informs future warfare.
One thing that it kind of always comes up in this topic area is whether or not the Terminator is coming.
When you mention artificial intelligence, people go straight to the Terminator or HAL from 2001, A Space Odyssey. The reality is we're just not there yet. Every form of artificial intelligence at the moment is what's known as a narrow AI that's capable only doing a narrow range of functions within the algorithms and the data sets that it has access to.
In future warfare, an experienced battle-weary soldier with finely honed instincts will incorporate AI into combat missions, endowing AI with the same level of trust that they share with their fellow soldiers.
You develop a trust in AI through practice, and people are already getting that practice through their use of smartphones, engagement with platforms like Siri and Alexa. People are already very familiar with that and very used to it.
Artificial intelligence, already part of our modern life, has exploitable capabilities that militaries are leveraging in the combat zone.
It can do things over and over. It's very accurate. It never gets bored. It doesn't need to sleep.
AI is most likely to be developed and incorporated in what is often referred to as the dirty and dangerous tasks in the military. On the battlefield, for example, removing wounded personnel.
So those kind of functions that are dumb or dirty or dangerous are very, very well suited to artificial intelligence.
Why take 2, 3, 4 fit and capable soldiers to carry one of their colleagues off the battlefield if that could be delegated to a robot of some kind that could pick up and carry that person away? So that leaves you with your other functioning soldiers to continue whatever attack or defense is going on.
AI in many ways allows certain skills that used to be the sole domain of humans to be outsourced or taken over by robots.
Throughout history, warfare has harnessed technology at every opportunity. Military organizations that stay rigid and tradition-based are left behind and less likely to be victorious.
As we evolve through history, we see war and its character changing, and many of the factors that affect that change are the introduction of technologies. For example, during the American Civil War, the advent of technology to include the Springfield rifle, the use of massed artillery, and really the introduction of military technology that was superior to tactics. You saw a definition of that conflict that was not akin to anything that had happened before. It was without precedent.
In World War I, rapid developments in technology, such as the machine gun, facilitated the rise of attrition-based trench warfare, and early templates of tanks and aircraft began to reshape the battlefield.
We all think about the trenches and how on the Western Front for nearly 4 years, hardly anybody moved position and lots of soldiers died. And that was the reality. But towards the end of the war, from the middle of 17 into 18, mobility started to be restored. And that was because a combination of some new technologies were invented, but also existing technologies were used in a different way.
World War II was a high-tech arms race that shaped the foundations of modern warfare. Radar, jet engines, space travel. Germany even produced a remote-controlled 2,300-pound anti-ship missile, the Fritz X, considered the first precision-guided weapon and the forerunner to the anti-ship missile. Each new piece of technology creates a momentary edge. It's up to militaries to capitalize on it. And artificial intelligence is shaping up to be the key to that next big edge. In the ancient world, mythologists wrote of automated machines. But in more recent times, it was Alan Turing, an English mathematician, computer scientist, and theoretical biologist, who emerged as the father of artificial intelligence. Turing's work on code-breaking computers during World War II, and later his hypothetical Turing machine, saw him closing in on what artificial intelligence could be. Turing's landmark paper, Computing Machinery and Intelligence, asked, "Can machines think?" He posited that if computers respond intelligently to intelligent humans, then they should be recognized as possessing intelligence. Alan Turing had died 2 years before the 1956 Dartmouth College Conference. At that conference, the term artificial intelligence was first coined by John McCarthy. Turing's legacy lives on today. The golden age of AI research had begun.
If we think about the history of the U.S. Department of Defense involvement with technological developments, we have to go back to the 1960s and 70s.
The 1956 Dartmouth Conference is recognized as the beginning of the Golden Age, which continued until the mid-1970s. But midway through that era, the U.S. government was suddenly forced to recognize that computer science had to be a big part of the future.
Back then, USSR launched the space satellite, Sputnik. That was the first space satellite.
Today, a new moon is in the sky, a 23-inch metal sphere placed in orbit by a Russian rocket.
The United States was very much surprised by this event. Nobody was aware that this was happening. As a response to that event, the U.S. Department of Defense stood up DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, with a goal to essentially make sure that we would never be again surprised by an adversary in context of technological development.
I shall propose a program of action, a program that will demand the energetic support of not just the government, but every American, if we are to make it successful.
DARPA invested heavily in a variety of new defense technologies. Artificial intelligence, though high on their agenda, was just one of their many pursuits.
DARPA created ARPANET, and that essentially led to the creation of Internet. Other things that DARPA has been credited with is the creation of Siri digital assistant technologies. Another example is GPS.
Much of the same technology used by militaries is also used in the public sector.
The way that we use, say, Google Maps on a smartphone to navigate is increasingly the way that targeting decisions and intelligence decisions and command decisions are being made on the battle space. So you typically have a human and an AI or an algorithm looking at the same data and almost working side by side as they develop.
But what happens when we remove the human altogether? One of the key capabilities dominating discussion around the future of AI is autonomy.
Autonomy is understood as something less sophisticated than artificial intelligence.
It's funny, these terms are often used synonymously, which I don't think is quite right. Artificial intelligence is kind of an umbrella term for the broad portfolio or constellation of technology and techniques that are a series of sensors and processors that take information, process it, and give a output. Autonomy is a bit more of a philosophical term or a command and control term in a sense. It's the ability to operate independent of other control or guidance. AI-enabled systems allow for autonomous capability to exist.
Autonomous weapons have been around for longer than many of us may be aware. Landmines, such as those used in the Vietnam War, are an early example.
A landmine is fully autonomous. You bury it in the dirt, it has no more interactions with its creator, and it will just continue to do its function, which is actually to do nothing until the moment someone steps on it.
A soldier's foot treads upon the mine, and certain parameters are met. The weapon is activated to catastrophic effect. When we think about more modern and future examples of autonomous weapon systems, the current definition used in international law is a system which is capable of selecting and engaging targets without human involvement.
In order to do that, you need an amazing amount of recognition systems. There has been controversy around the development of such recognition systems, facial recognition, which could perhaps be used for nefarious purposes rather than perhaps a legitimate legal warfare situation. So in terms of recognition, that's difficult. And then there's the targeting. Who ultimately decides that a weapon can be fired and another human being killed? Are you going to delegate that responsibility to a computer? I don't think so.
There's a lot of misconceptions about what AI and autonomy are going to bring to future warfare. It is a very exciting area, and there's a lot of great potential, but it's sometimes bandied about, both terms, as a silver bullet for things that are just very difficult to do. And I don't think that's quite right.
AI has been shaping the future of warfare for some time already, actually. For example, the Iron Dome air defense system. That is autonomous, is highly automated, and has a degree of artificial intelligence. It recognizes threats and responds to those threats accordingly.
In service from 2011, Iron Dome is an Israeli anti-missile defense system designed to intercept and destroy incoming threats from ranges of 4 to 70 kilometers.
Once it's activated, if there are multiple missiles approaching it, it will not wait for a human to give permission to fire on each one. It will simply fire on each incoming missile.
The intelligence system is also advanced enough to recognize and ignore threats that will land on uninhabited areas, minimizing unnecessary interaction and overall costs. Underpinning further advances in autonomous weapon systems and artificial intelligence is another important development.
One subcomponent of artificial intelligence is machine learning, which is based on the idea that a system can be programmed and taught to learn from a vast amount of data that system is being fed with.
The system learns to recognize certain patterns and generalized rules, and then draws conclusions from those patterns. The more the system learns, the better its performance becomes. And with increased performance comes speed.
That allows very time-consuming things to be done now very quickly, possibly, processing at scale.
The analogy that I use is like high-speed trading platforms on Wall Street.
Artificial intelligence processes information and communication at rates no human being could ever hope to achieve.
It's not people on the phone to their broker on the floor or a trader out on the trading floor trying to get them to buy or sell.
But it's really kind of fundamentally just really advanced statistics, which sounds not all that exciting until you kind of see it in action.
These decisions are made in instantaneous split seconds by algorithms, by high-speed, high-volume trading platforms. The decisions about parameters for buying and selling and about what kinds of stocks are being targeted and what constitutes an event that's going to cause an algorithm to make a certain decision, all of that is set by humans, and the policy parameters that it works within change, and that's where the humans have their input. But in the moment, in the actual cycle of trading, it's happening in microseconds.
In war, microseconds matter. They can mean the difference between life and death.
In current technology, where there are humans out of the loop, it's in things like some of the defensive technologies we use around our capital assets. So we have machine guns that fire a very, very high rate of munitions to protect against an incoming missile onto a ship. That response, given the speed of the incoming missile, is automated. So it's coming at Mach 1, and you've got 3/4 of half of 1 second to make a decision.
And with artificial intelligence powering ever faster systems that outstrip the capabilities of man, how far are we willing to go when delegating decisions to machines?
In terms of offensive operations and strike, if it's an algorithm versus an algorithm where we automate the strike, and it's an algorithm versus a human, that's not warfare, that's something else. And we need to understand what that is. If we go so far as to automate our offensive strike processes, it's at odds with our understanding of the definition of warfare, which is an intimate human activity, and in my mind remains the case right now.
Giving full autonomy to weaponized machines is shaping up to be a defining part of the discussion around future warfare.
Fully autonomous implies fully capable decision-making by a machine. So a machine will decide what it's going to do, how it's going to do it, when it's going to do it. Do you just give them to self-learn, or do you put constraints on the self-learning? In a war capability, that is often assumed to be, well, if it's fully autonomous, it goes out and decides who to kill and who not to kill. How autonomous systems are going to make those decisions is probably the great challenge in artificial intelligence.
There is still a human on the loop, but there's not a human in the loop. The policymaker, or the commander, in a military sense, is going to be telling it which protocol to adopt. The air defense analogy, weapons tight, weapons hold, weapons free, they're all protocols. And the commander that says weapons free or weapons tight, they're basically putting forward a targeting policy that the system then works to.
In 1983, at the height of the Cold War, the argument for keeping a human being on the loop could not have been made more profoundly.
US and Russia both had, systems that were always on alert. There was a Russian, Petrov, who was monitoring sort of the systems, and one day saw numerous missiles or indicators of missiles come up on his screen, and it looked exactly like they were under attack by the U.S. Many of his colleagues are saying, I think we have to raise the flag. He would have had to notify his superiors, and then he knew they would likely do a strike back. But for some reason, he just didn't think it was accurate.
With apparent U.S. missiles raining down toward Russia, Petrov fell back on human instinct to make a calculated decision.
He didn't think it made any sense that the Americans would be striking at that point, and so he decided not to elevate that decision. There was something that their systems were picking up in the atmosphere. Indeed, there weren't missiles, and so he basically saved us from, a catastrophic outcome and a nuclear war.
Defying protocol and declaring the system's indication a false alarm, Petrov's instinct-based decision prevented retaliatory nuclear strikes from NATO and U.S. forces. A nuclear war to end all wars was narrowly avoided.
I think it highlights an important point here about human judgment. And I think anyone who's working in this field or dealing with autonomy understands that there's something extremely special about human judgment that we don't expect machines to be able to replicate anytime soon, maybe ever.
If human judgment is truly unique, the answer to maximizing the potential of artificially intelligent systems in future conflicts may not lie in removing humans from the loop completely, but instead somewhere in between. The bond between human and machine has the potential to work with remarkable efficiency. Artificially intelligent systems communicating with highly trained soldiers, an unparalleled human-machine symbiosis.
And the US Air Force right now has a program called Loyal Wingman, which involves an F-35 fighter with 4 to 6 drones that scout ahead of the manned aircraft that will carry out attacks in high-threat environments, will go and shoot down incoming threats or carry out attacks.
The Loyal Wingman program utilizes swarming drones, such as the Kratos Valkyrie XQ-58A. Their mission? To escort parent aircraft into the combat zone, absorbing enemy fire when necessary, reaching speeds in excess of 1,000 kilometers an hour, and launching precision-guided bombs from a height of up to 45,000 feet, all in support of the human pilot.
The pilot of the F-35 becomes more like an AWACS, an airborne warning and control aircraft, rather than a fighter aircraft. That's something that we haven't really seen before, where we're seeing a human and a machine teaming kind of shoulder to shoulder to generate a joint effect.
Swarming drone programs, human-machine teaming. The contested space in future warfare moves toward the unmanned. DARPA's Gremlin program is partway through the development of a launch and retrieve system. Small weaponized drones, Gremlins, are launched by larger aircraft. Communication and navigation technology then inserts them into combat zones to overwhelm a target. Mission completed. These reusable systems then return to an out-of-combat zone parent aircraft. But the open sky is not the only domain for drones. Autonomous unmanned warships, using artificial intelligence, navigate vast open seas and scour the ocean floor for submarines. Like in the aerial domain, distancing the human has benefits.
Allows complex operations to continue in environments or on missions where it would almost be impossible to send a human combatant into.